The film opens in Tampa, Florida, under the cover of night. Two men, Bobby Saint and Mickey Duca, arrive at a secluded dock to meet European arms dealer Otto Krieg. After confirming that the buyers are clean, Otto signals for his superior to step in. He scans the cash, verifies its authenticity, and the men finalize their arrangement for a shipment of ammunition. Just as the deal is sealed, the quiet night erupts with flashing lights. FBI vehicles and a helicopter descend on the scene, ordering everyone to the ground. Caught off guard and enraged, Otto lashes out, accusing the buyers of orchestrating a setup. As the raid unfolds, Otto reaches for his gun, but is immediately gunned down by federal agents. Panicked, Bobby Saint raises his weapon, only to be shot and killed in the crossfire. Mickey Duca is taken into custody. In the aftermath, it's revealed that Otto Krieg was actually an undercover FBI operative. Frank Castle, a former U.S. Army Delta Force commando, completing his final mission before retirement. His colleagues celebrate his successful career with a farewell party. The story then shifts to a lavish estate, where a powerful family mourns the loss of their son, Bobby Saint. Blaming Mickey for the botched deal that led to Bobby's death, the organization abducts and brutally tortures the small-time arms dealer in pursuit of answers. Mickey, a small-time drug dealer, insists he had nothing to do with Bobby's death. He explains that Bobby was a regular customer and, upon learning about the impending arms deal, eagerly volunteered to join. Bobby had even contributed half of the money himself, determined to impress his father by participating in something he believed was significant. Mickey stresses that the man responsible for the failed deal and the ensuing shootout was the arms broker known as Otto Krieg, who was killed during the raid. The interrogation halts when Mr. Saint enters the room. He coldly states that Otto Krieg is not dead, then furiously turns on his own security chief, blaming him for failing to protect Bobby and allowing his son to walk into danger that ultimately cost him his life. Frank returns home, where he embraces his wife, Maria, reassuring her that the operation was his final mission before retirement. He then spends time with his young son, Will. During their conversation, it's revealed that the Castle family is preparing to relocate from California to London, hoping for a safer, quieter life together. Meanwhile, Howard Saint visits the mortuary to view his son's body one last time. Consumed by grief and rage, he turns to corruption for answers. Saint bribes a federal law enforcement contact, Jimmy Weeks, a close friend of Frank Castle's, seeking confidential information about the man known as Krieg and his true federal background. After officially retiring, Frank travels with his family to his father's oceanfront home in Aguadilla Bay, Puerto Rico, for a long-awaited family reunion. Frank Castle Sr. beams with pride at his son's accomplishments. That evening, Frank and Mariah stroll along the shoreline, savoring their newfound freedom and the peaceful future ahead before sharing an intimate moment on the beach. Elsewhere, Howard Saint, still reeling from his son's funeral, reviews Frank Castle's file with his wife Livia at his side. Quentin Glass, Saint's ruthless lieutenant, informs him that Frank is not headed to England yet, but is currently celebrating a family gathering in Puerto Rico. Consumed by vengeance, Howard Saint gives the order to carry out an attack on Frank Castle and his entire family. The next morning, Frank enjoys a carefree moment with his family, unaware of the danger closing in. His father leads him to a small cabin to proudly show off a new collection of firearms he has purchased. At that very moment, Howard Saint's hit squad launches a brutal surprise assault on the reunion, opening fire on everyone in sight. Chaos erupts as the Castle family scrambles for cover. Frank and his father arm themselves in a desperate attempt to defend their loved ones, gunfire echoing across the once peaceful bay. Down by the shoreline, Maria and young Will find themselves trapped as the attackers close in. Frank Sr. is struck by gunfire, collapsing in his son's arms. Maria, trembling but determined, grabs Will and races to the family van. She speeds away in a frantic attempt to escape, but Saint's men pursue them relentlessly. After dispatching one of the attackers, Frank commandeers a motorcycle and speeds off in pursuit of his family, following the path the gunmen have taken. Maria's van races, but the attackers shoot out the tires, sending the vehicle crashing violently. Dazed but determined, Maria pulls Will from the wreck and runs desperately toward Frank Sr.'s boat, the closest hope for safety. Before they can reach it, Saint's men overtake them. By the time Frank arrives, it is too late. Maria and Will lie lifeless. Grief-stricken, he cradles their bodies, only to be captured moments later. The gang shoots Frank repeatedly and subjects him to a savage beating. Bobby Saint's twin brother Johnny delivers a vengeful shot to Frank's chest before the attackers douse the pier with fuel. Quentin Glass orders the structure burned, leaving Frank to die as the entire dock erupts in a massive explosion. Miraculously, Frank survives. He is pulled from the water by a local fisherman named Candelaria, who shelters him and nurses him back to health. Howard Saint dotes obsessively on his wife, Livia, showering her with lavish gifts, including diamond rings. Months later, after a long recovery, a bearded and hardened Frank Castle returns to the beach where his family was slaughtered. After quietly gathering the remaining weapons and bidding farewell to Candelaria, he leaves Puerto Rico for Tampa. There, Frank takes refuge in a rundown apartment building, spending countless hours in solitude, modifying his car and preparing for something darker. The building's other tenants, Dave, Bumpo, and Joan, live quiet, troubled lives of their own, unaware of the storm gathering beneath their roof. One night, Frank abducts Mickey Duca. After an intense session of interrogation and psychological pressure, Mickey finally breaks. He reveals the identities of the Toro brothers, who oversee Howard Saint's gambling empire, and describes the routes used to move and launder the organization's cash. Sensing an opportunity, Frank coerces Mickey into becoming his inside informant within the Saint criminal network. Because Mickey also despises the Saints, he reveals that Frank's family was targeted largely under Livia Saint's influence. He explains the family's routines in detail. Howard takes tea at Tampa Springs 5 days a week, while Livia spends every Thursday getting her nails done and going to the movies. Her movements tightly monitored by Howard. Their second son, John Boy, is a reckless partygoer, and Quentin Glass, the family's calculating consigliere and attorney, is privy to every secret within the Saint Empire. Frank then reconnects with former colleagues who believed he had died in Puerto Rico, revealing that he survived and swearing vengeance on those responsible for his family's murder. His first strike is bold and symbolic. Frank storms one of Howard Saint's primary money laundering operations, subduing the workers and forcing them to dump piles of cash out of the windows, sending bills fluttering over the streets below and creating chaos throughout the city. He then eliminates the building's guards, delivering a clear and unmistakable message. The Punisher has begun his war. After discovering that Frank is still alive and responsible for the attack on one of his money laundering fronts, Howard hires a team of mercenaries to finish the job once and for all. Later that night, Frank intervenes when Dave is threatened by a violent, abusive neighbor, rescuing him and strengthening the bond between them. Grateful, Joanne tells Frank they saw him on television and already know about the tragic murder of his family. Frank soon moves out and begins tracking Livia, secretly tapping every call made from her car. Using a voice changer device, he impersonates her and contacts Glass, arranging a meeting at a local bar under the pretense of showing him photos of his unfaithful boyfriend. Glass arrives at the same bar Livia had entered earlier. Mickey informs Saint that Glass has gone to the Hotel Saint, prompting Saint to head there himself. When he finds both Glass and Livia together at such an unusual hour, his suspicion grows about what the two of them might be up to. Meanwhile, in a nearby cafe, an assassin named Harry Heck begins tailing Frank, posing as a guitar-playing drifter. What begins as a quiet pursuit escalates into a high-speed road chase. Frank ultimately kills Heck by firing a ballistic knife straight into his throat. That night, Frank strikes back at Saint's criminal empire by planting a bomb on a boat carrying one of his major cash shipments. The explosion destroys the cargo and severely damages Saint's lucrative operation with the Cubans. Saint responds by hiring another assassin, a towering Russian enforcer, who ambushes Frank inside his apartment. A brutal close-quarters battle erupts, tearing through the rooms. After several punishing minutes, Frank finally gains the upper hand, defeating the giant by throwing a pot of scalding cooking oil into his face. After the fight, Joan carefully tends to Frank's wounds. Moments later, Glass and Johnny arrive, arresting Dave and Bumpo and interrogating them about Frank's whereabouts. Unbeknownst to them, Frank and Joan are hiding in a concealed closet, listening as their friends are questioned. Despite hours of torture, Dave and Bumpo refuse to give up any information. As Glass and Johnny depart, Glass quietly orders one of his men to stay behind and kill Frank the moment he returns. When Frank regains consciousness, he ambushes the assassin and kills him with ruthless efficiency. That same night, Frank packs his arsenal, fully prepared to deliver final vengeance on Saint's entire operation. Despite Joan's desperate attempt to convince him to walk away, Frank slips into Livia's car and quietly takes the gold earrings Saint had given her. Using them as part of his plan, he calls Glass and arranges a meeting with him and Ranson. With subtle help from Mickey, Frank masterfully manipulates Saint into believing that Glass and Livia are having a secret affair, planting the seeds of deadly suspicion that will soon tear Saint's world apart. To seal the illusion, Frank places one of Livia's distinctive earrings in Glass's bed. Blinded by jealousy and unaware that Glass is gay, Saint becomes convinced that his most trusted friend and his wife are betraying him. He storms into Glass's home, accuses him of having an affair with Livia, and, despite Glass's desperate confusion, stabs him to death. When Livia tries to explain that Glass was gay, Saint refuses to listen. Instead, he angrily confronts her with the fabricated evidence Frank planted, including a trail of hotel room booking receipts, and accuses her of betraying him with his closest friend. Saint drives Livia out to an overpass, consumed by rage and betrayal. Without hesitation, he throws her onto the railroad tracks below, where she is struck and killed by an oncoming train. Back at the nightclub, a panicked and furious Saint gathers his remaining henchmen. Desperate to regain control, he gives each man $50,000 and promises another $50,000 to whoever finds and kills Frank Castle. Meanwhile, Castle methodically prepares for his final assault. He infiltrates Saint's Tampa nightclub, planting explosives on every car in the parking lot and rigging all exit doors with bombs, setting the stage for a devastating act of vengeance. When Saint orders drinks, Frank plants a bomb inside, causing a powerful explosion. Frank brutally kills many of Saint's henchmen. As Saint tries to escape, the bomb placed on the door detonates. Frank also kills John Saint, who is trapped in the debris, by planting a bomb in his hand. Castle wounds Howard Saint with a pistol when Saint attempts to shoot him in the nightclub parking lot.
Castle then ties Saint to a slow-moving car, but not before revealing that Glass and Livia were never having an affair. Several hidden bombs go off, killing Saint. The destruction and wreckage form the shape of the Punisher's iconic skull. Later that night, Castle returns to his apartment and prepares to end his journey. However, after a brief vision of his wife, he decides to continue his vigilante mission against those he believes deserve punishment. Before leaving on his next mission, he gives most of Saint's money to Bumpo, Joan, and Dave. On the Sunshine Skyway Bridge, he makes a solemn vow. Those who do evil to others, the killers, the sexual predators, psychos, sadists, will come to know me well. Frank Castle is dead. Call me the Punisher. Thanks for watching.